May 25, 1945. British soldiers in Lüneburg, Germany, stood around a shallow hole in the heath. Inside lay the body of the most powerful man in the Nazi killing machine. Heinrich Himmler, Reichsführer SS, the architect of the Holocaust, had been dead for 2 days. His face looked almost peaceful, pale skin, thin lips pressed together, round wire-rimmed glasses still perched on his nose. The man who once controlled an empire of terror now wore a simple Wehrmacht sergeant's uniform. But everything changed the moment the British opened that unmarked grave months later for a second look. What they found, and what they did with the corpse, revealed the final desperate attempt to erase one of history's greatest monsters. The coffin, or what remained of the body in the sandy soil, held secrets that still disturb anyone who sees the photos. Heinrich Leopold Himmler was born on October 7, 1900, in Munich, into a strict middle-class Catholic family. His father, Gebhard, was a respected school principal who tutored the Bavarian royal family. Young Heinrich grew up surrounded by books, discipline, and high expectations. He was a weak, sickly child who suffered from stomach ailments his entire life. What most people don't know is how ordinary his early dreams were. As a teenager, Himmler desperately wanted to join the German army during World War I, but the war ended before he saw combat. He studied agriculture at the Technical University in Munich, hoping to become a farmer. He kept a detailed diary, full of shy observations about girls and his own insecurities. But the lost war and the chaos of the Weimar Republic cracked something inside him. Germany's defeat, hyperinflation, and street violence left him furious and humiliated. In August 1923, he joined the Nazi Party as member number 14,303. He found a system that rewarded his worst qualities, his love of order, his obsession with detail, and his deep hatred of Jews, which he absorbed from folkish writers and the stab-in-the-back myth. By 1925, the shy student had become a devoted follower of Adolf Hitler. The men who once fainted at the sight of blood would soon build an organization that killed millions. In January 1929, Hitler appointed the 28-year-old Himmler as Reichsführer of the SS. At the time, the SS was a tiny bodyguard unit of just 280 men. Himmler transformed it into a black uniformed empire of 250,000 by 1933 and nearly 1 million by 1944. He moved step by step. In 1933, he took control of the Munich police and opened the first concentration camp at Dachau. By 1934, after the Night of the Long Knives, he helped eliminate the SA leadership and made the SS independent, answering only to Hitler. In 1936, he became chief of German police. By 1943, he was also Minister of the Interior. Each promotion made the next one feel inevitable. Himmler created the machinery, the Gestapo, the Einsatzgruppen mobile killing squads, and the vast network of concentration and extermination camps. He obsessed over racial purity, founding the Ahnenerbe Institute to prove Aryan superiority and Lebensborn programs to breed perfect German children. The system rewarded his pedantic cruelty. While other Nazi leaders gave fiery speeches, Himmler worked quietly in his office, signing orders with his green pencil and demanding detailed reports on every execution. Unknown to most Germans at the time, this quiet bureaucrat was turning ideology into industrial murder. Himmler did not just order the Holocaust. He designed it. By the end of the war, under his direct authority, Nazi Germany murdered approximately 6 million Jews. That is 2 out of every 3 Jews in Europe. The SS also killed between 200,000 and 500,000 Romani people, hundreds of thousands of disabled people, political opponents, Soviet POWs, and Polish civilians. The total death toll linked to Himmler's organizations reached between 11 and 14 million. The killing began with the invasion of Poland in 1939. Einsatzgruppen followed the army and shot tens of thousands. Himmler visited these units and watched executions. One shocking statistic stands out: in just the first few months of Operation Barbarossa in 1941, Einsatzgruppen and related forces killed over 1 million Jews in mass shootings. Himmler pushed for more efficient methods. He toured Auschwitz in 1941 and ordered its expansion into a death factory. Gas chambers using Zyklon B could kill thousands per day. At its peak, Auschwitz murdered around 6,000 people in a single day. One survivor of Auschwitz later said, "When the trains arrived, the selection was rapid. Mothers holding children were sent left. The strong to the right. We knew what left meant. According to court records from the Nuremberg trials, Himmler himself declared in a 1943 speech at Posen, "I ask of you that which I say to you in this circle be really only heard and not ever discussed." We came to the question, how is it with the women and children? I decided to find a clear solution here as well. I did not consider myself justified to exterminate the men and allow the avengers, in the form of their children, to grow up. The difficult decision had to be taken to make this people disappear from the earth. He spoke of the extermination as a glorious page in our history that would never be written. Himmler inspected camps personally, complaining about slow construction or inefficient killing rates. He demanded medical experiments on prisoners, including sterilization and high-altitude tests. His SS ran the entire concentration camp system: Dachau, Buchenwald, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Majdanek, and Auschwitz-Birkenau. What most people don't know is how bureaucratic it all was. Himmler required weekly reports on prisoner numbers, death rates, and gold extracted from teeth. He treated mass murder like factory production quotas. By 1944, even as Germany lost the war, he accelerated the killing. Trains rolled east full of Jews while soldiers desperately needed those same trains for reinforcements. By early 1945, the machinery Himmler built was collapsing around him. The Red Army advanced from the east, the Western Allies from the west. Himmler, always the opportunist, began secret peace negotiations through Swedish diplomat Count Folke Bernadotte. He offered to release some prisoners in exchange for favorable treatment. Hitler found out. On April 20, 1945, during Hitler's last birthday, the Führer stripped Himmler of all offices and ordered his arrest. Himmler, the man who preached absolute loyalty, betrayed his leader in the final weeks. He fled Berlin disguised as a sergeant in the secret field police, carrying false papers under the name Heinrich Himmler. With 2 aides, he wandered north toward the British lines, hoping to blend in among millions of refugees and surrendering soldiers. The seeds of his downfall, his own arrogance and the inevitable defeat he had helped create, had finally bloomed. On May 21, 1945, near Bremervord, British soldiers from the 31st Field Security Section stopped 3 suspicious Germans. One was short, wore a black eye patch, and carried documents identifying him as Sergeant Heinrich Himmler. They took the men to a camp at Barnstedt for interrogation. For 2 days, Himmler stayed silent about his true identity. On May 23, the British transferred him to 31st Army Intelligence Headquarters at Lüneburg. There, Captain Tom Sylvester recognized him. Himmler calmly removed his eye patch and announced, "I am Heinrich Himmler." The British immediately stripped and searched him. They found a small glass vial of cyanide hidden in the lining of his clothing. To be sure, they took him for a full medical examination. Captain Wells of the Royal Army Medical Corps began checking his mouth at around 11 p.m. He spotted a small blue-black object in Himmler's left cheek. As Wells reached in with his finger, Himmler bit down hard. He crushed the cyanide capsule between his teeth. The poison worked fast. Himmler collapsed, convulsing. Doctors tried to pump his stomach and gave him emetics, but it was too late. Within 15 minutes, the Reichsführer SS was dead. His body lay on the floor for hours. British officers took photographs. His face looked slack, mouth slightly open, skin turning bluish. The small, ordinary-looking man in underwear who had once commanded fear across Europe now looked pathetic. They made a death mask and performed an autopsy on May 25. They removed his brain and parts of his skeleton for study. The remaining body was buried in an unmarked grave on the Lüneburg Heath in a secret location chosen to prevent any shrine. Later, British authorities exhumed it for further identification and verification. The remains were reportedly cremated at a military hospital in Hanover. No one knows exactly where the ashes ended up. The men who wanted to rule for 1,000 years disappeared without a trace. The opening of Himmler's temporary resting place and the handling of his corpse showed how completely the Allies wanted him erased. No monument. No grave for followers to visit. Just sand and secrecy. Yet the real horror is how easily one man's obsessions, backed by a modern state, turned ordinary bureaucrats and soldiers into mass murderers. Himmler was not a screaming monster in public. He was a punctual, pedantic administrator who loved his family and kept detailed notes. That is what makes it hardest to watch. The machinery he built did not require devils. It only needed people willing to follow orders. And somewhere in the unmarked soil of northern Germany, what was left of the men who gave those orders finally vanished. But the questions about how such evil took root remain buried only as deep as we allow them to be.